I like that. Nope.
That's an alarm.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the May committee meeting of the Penns Manor Board of Education. And I am going to turn the agenda over to Mr. Johnston.
Okay, thank you. So if you want to take a look at your agenda, seeing that there's no citizens this evening, we'll skip right over citizens' remarks. Moving along to program presentations. Next week, Mrs. Eckenrode is going to give a summary of the Aaron IU convention that was just recently held. So she'll give a summary next week. And moving down through nothing under negotiations, and then moving on to curriculum. First, under curriculum 5A is to approve agreement with Ignite Education Solutions to provide dropout prevention program next school year. And that is handout 5A that you also have. And again, that's for our dropout prevention at the high school. Just want to remind everyone, students going into that program have had to be at least retained once in a grade level before we place them in that dropout prevention program. Also remember under budget and finance that we did have that in our phase 1 plan to continue providing that program one more year using ESSER funds. And then we would have discussion about that program the following year. Total amount, $71,390.70. Any questions regarding that program? Okay, moving along, 5B, we have a request. We're fortunate to have 30 students who qualify in the FBLA national competition. They're scheduled to go in June. Because we typically don't have people going to national levels, we have not budgeted for that. However, we would find funds if you see fit to approve. It would be our recommendation to go ahead and approve that trip. And it's a separate motion because our policy says if anyone goes out of state, it's a separate motion and it's not under all of our other field trip lists. So 3 students, FBLA. Last year we did have one other student qualify. However, that national FBLA was not held in person. It was all virtual. So this will be the first time in 2 years that the national FFA, why can't I not get FFA out of my mind? The national FBLA competition will be held in Chicago. Questions, comments? Okay with approving? Okay. Moving along to budget and finance. First, and you have a handout 6A, to approve life insurance, also accidental death and dismemberment renewal policy. That's through CM Regent. And you can take a look at the notation sent to Mrs. Sleppy, and you can also see that there would be no increase for that coverage.
This is for
life insurance and also pardon me?
Employees.
Yes. Questions, comments? Okay. Next, moving along to 6B. Mrs. Sleppy has prepared online the way it's going to be submitted, our budget. So in May, we would have to approve the tentative budget, and then by either the June board meeting or no later than June 30th, you'd approve the final budget. So where we're sitting at this point, after we've combed everything, you can take a look at the second page that Mrs. Sleppy has provided. After that page, again, is all the detail, the exact format that she will submit that to the state, breaking it down into every line item, but the summary is on the second page, cover page, then second page. And I also want to point out this. So at this point, Budget and Finance Committee has indicated that we would change and do the things that we had in phase 1 of a sheet that we distributed in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting.
Has all the board seen? Everybody see that?
think everybody did.
I think we had a meeting, so I want to make sure everybody has seen where we're at.
In that, a couple things. One, as Mrs. Sleppy was going back through and combing the whole thing and putting it in to the format that needs to be, a couple things. One, that deficit that is still holding at the bottom is this that you need to know. One, in the budget, we had a deficit, the cafeteria having a deficit of $80,000, and we're going to be talking later on that they're wanting the renewal to guarantee that it won't be more than $140,000 deficit. So what we had to do was to add 60 in here as a deficit. In turn, I then, in my discussions with Budget and Finance Committee, I had indicated that I thought pretty much would estimate that we would get 100,000 additional state dollars. That is also in here. So when you add the 60 deficit in and add in the 100 revenue, we're still at the deficit of 236,000 that's at the bottom of that. So that would be using $236,825 of fund balance. Am I explaining that right, Mrs. Levy?
Yes.
Good.
So we essentially, I thought we were 277, so we ended up putting 60 more in for the cafeteria.
Right.
And we didn't have the 100 in for the state. We still don't know if it's 100.
No. So
it's 336.
So if you want, you could show that it's 336 and take the others back out.
I think you should. I don't think you know what you're getting from the state.
She can adjust it.
I know I've asked it before, when we say, you say 100, is that 100 and because it's millions, never mind. Forget. The state, we draw down several million.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry, you're saying 100,000
Right,
more.
right. Between basic ed and special ed together.
And I know that the committee has a meeting with cafeteria. It's soon, isn't it?
Monday.
I know I sent you an email about the Marion Center and nutrition services. You guys get that? I just sent it to the committee. Did
I
you get it?
haven't read the paper yet.
Okay, but anyways,
But I waved you out to read it.
I really do think that, $140,000 deficit on a cafeteria. I mean, we might get stuck with it. We might have to eat it. That's about half of our problem. So.
That truly has nothing to do with finances, does it? I mean, personnel? Because
Sure. Well, sure. Or the cafeteria personnel is factored into it. Yep.
so they're proposing making a proposal that we'll lose no more than 140.
Correct.
They don't pay the cafeteria workers.
No, we pay them, but that is all factored into the whole cafeteria account.
First of all, it was the Budget and Finance Committee's intent to have a balanced budget. No taxes, no use of fund balance. That was our goal. And when we had it trimmed when you had it trimmed to 277, we thought it was prudent at that time that let's see what the state gives us. If it brought it back to 177, it's a little bit more manageable, but I guess that's still a crapshoot what you get from the state. But the further we get away from that, the more problem we're going to have.
So, were we wanting Mrs. Sleppy before we approve next week to back out the 100?
I'd say, yeah, we don't have it.
I agree.
Good.
It's a guess.
So in the contract, 140 is what Metz is asking us to,
They're saying that would be the deficit of operation for the cafeteria next year.
they're saying that is what
I
it
don't
will
like that
be.
either.
Well, that's what they guarantee that it won't go over. If it goes over, then they have to pay.
Okay, so what has it run? Well, I
Last
guess
year-
it's really difficult to determine that.
Year
because-
before, the board approved it at 175,000 deficit.
So it's
stupid.
35,000 less than it was before?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because we've had 1 or 2 employees retire. So we ended up getting a lower paid employee.
So are you suggesting, you mentioned Marion Center, you suggestion we put it out on,
I don't think we're able to do that yet,
This
John. I
time.
think we're stuck for another year, but, I mean, from the committee's perspective, you can set that, I try to set that number for wherever you feel it's most comfortable.
So the process that you would want to do, if you want to send out for bid, is by December, have that knowledgeable, because it takes that long to go through that process. So by next December, if you would want to go with somebody different, or just put out for bid to see what the difference is, you
And
would
for
have to
what
make that determination.
And
by
for what it's
December.
worth, Darren, who's the group for Indiana? It wasn't nutrition, it was someone else.
Chart Wells.
Okay, the guy came, did the presentation. Most of you heard his presentation. That would be a good one to talk to. And I think the lady that was in the paper was the director at Marion Center. I think they were using nutrition.
They don't identify who the
I think it was.
program is in the paper.
I
No,
thought it was.
that's just a statement overall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But I can find out tomorrow who they're using. I don't want to be quoted as to what company they're using because I'm not sure.
okay.
Other questions on budget?
So you're saying that if you had the extra 100,000 in here, you'd be taking 336 from fund balance?
Right.
And then obviously, if whatever the state flows their money in,
Correct.
that's going to adjust.
Right.
And I would say, Rich, from a budget and finance committee, if we were at 336, we probably would be coming back to the board.
And you can do that from May to June.
When do you think you get your budget? You might not have it till
Oh, we'll
July.
probably, right, may have to have ours approved before we get the states.
Okay.
I'd like to tell you that we would get it before that, but. Other questions on budget?
in the paper, did I read that Indiana expects their payroll to increase $1 million and their,
Yeah.
did I, and the,
That's what the paper says.
huh?
That is what the paper says.
Increase $1 million?
And they're looking at a 2 million deficit. It's at least that's what's printed in the paper.
Sure.
Again, I
Well,
certainly wasn't at the meeting.
that just blew my mind.
Me too, when I read it. I had to read it again. I thought, wow. Other questions on budget? Okay. Okay, moving along. 6C, approve Zello renewal. That's career cruising, where all of our students have their career plan. There's a requirement of 339. Total cost for the online is $2,200. Questions, comments? Okay, moving along to 6D. We need to approve and post for RFP for fuel bids for use at Tri-County. You have a draft form. I know that we were having some trouble connecting with Mr. Saffron to review the paperwork that you have in front of you, Mrs. Sluppy created. I'm not sure if there's anything major in there. He left me a voicemail message tonight to say there was 1 or 2 things to tweak, but I don't think it's anything major, is it?
There's nothing major. There were a couple of things that he was asking, just double checking some of the specifications. He wants me to double check with Tri-County on that before we send it. And Tri-County has reviewed.
Okay, so, and looking at that, so proposals are to be in by June 1st, and then we would be awarding June 8th. Questions? Okay, next, 6E. It's that time of the year again to approve PSBA service membership for all of you, including myself, for the 2022-23 school year. Total cost would be $6,815.45. Just so that you know, that would cover the standard membership, any trainings that you want to do online. Also, the policy maintenance updates that we get from PSBA, along with any administrative regulations which are attachments to policy. All that comes from PSBA. Questions, comments? Okay. Moving along to buildings and grounds. Just wanted to have you take a look at attachment 7A. So Mr. Dalton has tried to seek cost for trash removal. We've only had one response, and that's from West. Wow, I can't talk tonight. Waste Management. If you take a look, follow me under accounts. The high school has the 3 containers, and the total monthly cost is $892.21. Then the recycling dumpster that we have off right out here to the side of the district office, that's a monthly charge of $659.31. And then we typically get a roll-off, a 30-yard roll-off trash container, and basically you get that each summer, don't you, Mark? The summer.
Usually once in the summer.
So with that, just know that that's an increase of 8.5% from the previous year. And unless Mr. Dalton received other quotes today, that is the only one we got.
That is definitely one.
Okay. So be our recommendation to move forward to approve agreement with Waste Management as it's in 7A. Did you want to add anything, Mark?
This is a 3-year term.
3 years, right?
Yes, it's a 3-year term, and it's 8.5% increase for this year. But years 2 and 3, the price increase will be either 7% or using the CPI Consumer Price Index for urban commodities in March. Whatever the average is on that, whichever one is lower will be the increase for the next year. So it won't be any more than 7% for years 2 and 3. And if it's 1%, then that's the increase.
7% for both years.
No. per
7 a year.
Per year.
Seems high.
Is that Waste Management?
I'm not sure I'd be comfortable with this.
I tell you right now, I would
That's not
beg
good.
someone else to bid it. My history with them is that they start you out with like what seems like a bottom basement price, and then you're paying the $9 trillion fuel charge, and you know you picked up on a Wednesday charge, and they make you look like the base price is usually very competitive, but when they start talking about their service fees, and you can guarantee you they're going to increase you whatever they said they're going to. I'll bet anybody any amount of money
This
they
is
want to
what
bet on it.
we've been using them for the last, actually, my understanding is they've been with the school district for going on 25 years now. We are cheaper now than we were 5 years ago, since we renegotiated the contract. And they held to it.
So what type of increases are they saying they can apply to you annually?
This
Right
was-
now, 8.5% this year for the services we have,
For this year?
for this year.
Coming up.
Starting July 1st, until next July 1st, right? Then it would be either 7% or the CPI index on June 1st. We would look at that, and if it turns out that it's at 2 or 3%, that's the increase, not 7%. And that's locked for the remainder of that year.
How long contract?
3-year contract.
You looked in a Bugle?
Well, he did the last time, and last time they were not the cheapest, and the two of us is wondering if that's why they're not submitting again.
Do they recycle Yugo? Maybe that keeps them away?
No. They probably have to pay to go to a waste management landfill. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
It's, they got it locked in here, you know.
Is it, did we get any discount for 3 years?
No.
So 1
We
year
just
would
have
be,
a monthly rate that we pay. We stay within the guidelines. I mean, we're right, you know, our dumpsters are full. In the summertime, they do allow us to go down to one dumpster dumping twice a week.
what's the amount?
Currently, we are paying $822 per month for 3 dumpsters dumped twice a week.
Is that throughout the year?
Throughout the year, with
Except
the
for summer.
exception during the summer, we only dump 1 dumpster twice a week.
So you have
From
any,
June
so
through
how much,
August.
you have any idea how much that is a year?
Right around $15,000 with recycling.
15. So that included the 8% this year? Did you say,
Did we increase that?
did you say it was an 8% increase this year?
It'll start this summer.
Yeah, it just doesn't, here's what, you know what, it could very well be that everything's gonna move like this.
Well,
And maybe we're just not accustomed to it, but I'm thinking, if you go 8% this year, 7% next year, another 7%, we're at, what, 20-some% increase?
Yes.
So I'm just thinking, that's kind of outrageous. That's why I was saying, what's the total amount? So I don't know if we're not getting any discount to go long, stay short.
Well, just a brief conversation with a competitor of theirs, which I just got something quoted on the phone on it. If I was waiting for the email, we would pay pretty close to $400 per month more.
With the competitor.
Yes.
But my point would be, even if you're not going to a competitor, I don't see any advantage of going 3 years unless we're getting a discount.
Well, at least they're not talking writing in a fuel surcharge in this. I mean, you
Well, I
know,
think
diesel
it's
fuel
in.
is $6
I think it's in.
a
I
gallon.
think it's in there.
It's in.
So here's my question,
I
is
have never.
the competitor, are they giving you
It's in the 7%.
a locked price for, like,
No, that's
what are they
just-
saying their increases would be
That
after?
was just, I just asked them that just to see what it would be compared to today's price. There was nothing long about it. I sent them a couple emails, left them several voicemails, and nobody has reached back out.
I'd be curious to see, because the difference a lot of times when you start making these calls would be, I'm telling you, that's how WM operates. They get you in on the price, and then I guarantee you it'll be max whatever they can go to 3 years. But I'm curious to see what the competitor after, like, this year, yeah, it looks better with WM, but what's gonna happen in year 2 and year 3 of the contract? Or will the competitor go 1-year contracts? There's people that wanna do that too, and they don't wanna do a long-term 3. I'd just be curious to see what their rates would be, if they would be willing to at least put something in that says this is what we would increase year 1, year 2, year 3. Curious.
Is recycling more expensive than trash compared to the amount we use? Okay. If we didn't, is the recycling?
What's a contract out, Mark?
Yeah, well, I've been
I want to say it's something July, but I'm sitting here looking at what she had put down here, and she says effective date is 10/10/22.
Could you ask them, I mean, we have this many questions, could you ask them if we're going 3 years, is there a discount? I haven't asked them that question. Any discount for going 3 years? Now, it's a good question about, who knows where fuel prices will be. It might be up, it might be down, but I'm just thinking, they build in a pretty good buffer with the 7%.
Originally, when we were here talking, they won 3 years at 8.5% per year. bringing that back to the board. So,
Where's their landfill, Somerset?
one here is Culver City, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Recycling goes to Neville Island,
Okay.
but
It just seems, it seems high.
Would-
But like I said, everything might be high now. This might just be the start of what we're looking at with some other things.
Did we solicit this, or it was just their contract?
Yes, it was time for him to talk to them, yeah.
it was time to renew.
Oh, okay. And I mean, we didn't put the parameters, like we want a 3-year term, do the best you can do, or did we outline any of that?
That's basically just, she just modeled it after the last one we had agreed upon 3 years ago.
Okay.
It was a 3-year contract.
Yeah, because I know what we're doing, well, what I've been involved with and other things outside of here is, I mean, you have to shorten the terms because everybody builds risk in.
Right.
Just because of the spike in fuel costs and delivery and surcharges and all this other stuff. They won't show it as a surcharge. They show it just as an increase, and it's a risk thing. So to minimize the risk, you just have to lock in a year to year and go to year to year. Because the last thing you'd want to do is, you know, do you have the opportunity to open this back up then and say year 2 if prices dump? Because there's no surcharge associated with it. You know, they were smart just putting it in this because they'll say, hey, it was locked in. But actually, their surcharge is in this percentage. I mean, I would maybe just shorten it and look at it from a year-to-year basis. We can't lock up things. I mean, that's,
We can call
that's my
tomorrow, say we
opinion.
only want 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year at 7%, final offer.
Based on this thing, it's October 10th. Probably the only thing we have to watch on this, I think there's an automatic, I'm not sure there's an automatic renewal.
I don't believe it was.
But we can check that, you know, we can go year to year on it. You know, it could be 8.5% again next year, or it could be lower. So, you know, the risk is on our part as much as theirs. But as far as it goes back, Mr. Haney, I have not had any surcharges from them for the last 8 years. They have worked within their contract.
God bless you.
For here. So, but I stay on top of it because I do know at one point when I first started, you know, they were charging us for dumpsters being overloaded and
Oh, yeah.
everything along with that. But we have it down to, you know, the days that they're picking up on that, we're at max capacity, but it's working.
Yeah, my experience, like, the things, the surcharges, the overflow, like if you have one bag that's hanging more than 4 inches above the rim, then you
Yes,
get charged
you know that, but
3 times, whatever. But also, my experience is at the end of your contract, whenever you call them and they're whacking you, oh, we'll set your rate back to here, and then that's great. And then within 9 months, you're paying what you're paying today, which, like, they're willing to cut my rate to start with by over half. But I know through experience, within 6 months, I'm gonna be right back to where I am, and then by the end of the 3 years, I'm gonna be probably double what I am today. And I get it, I mean, inflation and rates and gas charges and all those things need to be considered, but I think the one thing I found is kinda like what Rich said, is where, you know, you're almost better off just saying, give me year to year. Because then you're not locked in if they do start whacking you with different charges. But like I said, like when you told me 800 and something bucks, that's all the dumpsters that cost us $800 a month.
yes.
Like, to me, that's hard to walk away from, because that's a heck of a rate. It just makes me a little
Like I
bit
said,
nervous
it's a good
with.
rate now compared to where it was 4 years ago.
Right. I just get a little bit nervous that, what does that mean, moving ahead?
And recycling, they don't charge us per month, that's just per dump. We average about 9 to 10 dumpsters a year. So at one point, they used to charge us per month whether we dumped it or not. Now it's just whatever the rate is.
You know, just to move things on, we don't have, let's not put it on the agenda. You have a few months to take care of it. You think it's October. Even if you have till July, why don't you just ask the question, Mark, see if they'll give us a discount for 2-year contract, 3-year contract, and bring it back. I mean, we still may end up going with something like this, but at least ask those questions.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
In the meantime, I'll still try to reach out to a competitor to see if we can and get a quote
Okay.
to go with it.
Okay. Moving to 7B, asking, Mr. Dalton would like to replace the 2 metal receiving doors and frame, which would, if you can see through there, you can see them right out through the window if you're on this side of the room. And the cost to do that would be $6,328, and that would come out of his budget for the year. Questions, comments?
Pretty rotten, are they, Mark?
Yes, they're starting, after they get sold, they start to rust on the inside of the frames, and those pushing the doors against each other, and they're binding up.
Other questions or comments? Okay. Moving out of buildings and grounds, just under athletics, 8A, just want to remind everyone to please help recruit discussions for varsity, for head varsity volleyball coach. Also under 8B, received a request from Mr. Bill Packer to have football camp at CEFMAC again this year, August 14th through the 19th. Any questions on those?
So we haven't got any more responses to the volleyball position?
0.
No interest anywhere?
I have not gotten a one. And every time I'm in a small group, I bring it up. Okay, nothing under transportation, nothing currently under technology special projects, nothing under public relations, no revisions to policies. Moving along, correspondence, just wanted to share with you a letter from Bailey Horn, who was a participant at state band. So she just wanted to say thank you for supporting the music and also her travels to the state festival. Under new business, request to approve subs under 14B to accept the resignation, which is an attachment from Mrs. Hearn as a cafeteria worker, and that is a 4.5-hour position that we would post and advertise in after this coming month once we accept her resignation.
Do we have to fill it?
Yes. We're down to the pit.
She moving on somewhere, do we know?
She's retired. She's
Retired?
Yep. Actually, she sort of come out of retirement to come and work a few more years.
How many individuals do we have working in the cafeteria that are?
So we have
district
we
employees?
have 1 8-hour, and then we would have everybody else anywhere from a 5.75 to a 4.5. The other 8.
Okay.
And I can chart it all up and send it to you.
Yeah, I mean, is there? So you're saying there's like a total of like 9?
Yes.
9 individuals.
Yep. 1 full-time, everybody else part-time. And what we were doing is, as soon as the full-time people went out, we were reducing, cutting.
It's hard for me to compute. We had the previous discussion about where we're at and that deficit and the count of individuals. So, okay. Yeah, it would be good to see that.
Okay. I'll have that ready before Monday, and then Karen will actually join us in Monday's meeting. She's the cafeteria manager. We can ask her specifics then. 14C, accept resignation of Candace Brink as cafeteria monitor, and that's a 3-hour position. Cafeteria monitor at the elementary school. Questions on that one? Okay, next, 14D, approved participation in Aaron Consortium Education, Learning to Employment and Career Training, which is elect. But if you think back about 2 months ago, we asked you to approve payment. We've always called it pre-parenting teens program. So together, those two names is one program. So we've asked approval to pay for this current year. Now the grant application that Aaron's doing, it's asking for prior approval the year before. So this motion, I just don't want you to confuse. The motion before was to pay the current year we're in. This motion would be saying, yes, we'll participate next year, because now their grant submission from Aaron IU is that they have to have this prior to. Does that make sense? Okay. 14E, approve an agreement with FBR to provide a behavioral consultant for next school year. Again, that was in phase 1 of having us continue with behavioral consultant. That's $80,300, as you can see, is in the attachment. And then at the following end of next school year, then we would reassess because we said that we're using ESSER 3 funds to pay for that. So again, just want to remind everyone, as we went through the different years of COVID dollars coming, wasn't so many stipulations put on the first 2 years. The third year, it had to be focused on spending it on social emotional needs, achievement gaps, things of that sort that had to be ear tagged to those. So those funds will be used for that purpose of the behavioral consultant for 1 year. Questions? Then 14F, again, contract, and you can see specifically their tabulation of cost in the 22-23 column for the cafeteria. So that's the third column that you can see. Total cost deficit, if you go then to the second page, you'll see the deficit of $140,000. So the motion would be to approve renewing it, and then if we wanted to move on, we need to make a decision again, as I indicated, by December, if we want to open up for proposals from others.
Again, you have your committee meeting next week,
Monday.
I mean, what if the committee says that our number's not 140?
So I said that. So I asked, if I told you that it had to be 100, it would be that the one single food item line would be what's in the cafeteria.
I don't understand.
What does that
So
mean?
right now, there's multiple things that you can get in our cafeteria lines. So it would, you can, but, so there would be, so tomorrow would be pizza, and everybody in the district's getting pizza, and that's what's served. Now, when you do that, which I know you want to do that, then participation rate goes. So then you have to figure out where's that balance.
Well, hate to say it, but if they're assuming the risk, or if they're, in other words, regardless of the loss, if you locked yourself in at 100, they have to eat it.
Well, they will tell you now that, and I'm just going to say this because this is the comments, is you have overpaid in benefits.
I know that's the issue, and I know the committee knows it too. Hey, listen, I would suggest, again, for the committee and whatever, I'd make sure they have a copy of the contract too.
Sure.
Because like you said, I mean, is apparently that's non-negotiable or it's negotiable?
Well, you'd be negotiating the line items.
Again, I'll let the committee do that. I don't.
You'd be negotiating the line items on attachment 14F.
Okay.
So each of those line items over the expense column, and looking at the third column, those would be, so their total food costs that they say for next year would be $176,419. And reducing that, the comment is, well, we would go to one menu item being served in all lines in both cafeterias.
Just so I have this sort of clear in my mind, and I think probably everybody else is trying to understand this a little too. The biggest thing is there's options. Like currently right now, we have options.
Sure. Yep.
The trouble is there's not a whole lot of folks that are purchasing those options.
We're at about 75% participation.
So, regardless, you could expand your options and you still might even stay at 75%.
True. True. Yes.
has our numbers gone up?
Just recently, we went from 70 to about 75, 76%.
And it's free.
It is free. Next year, it will not.
Right.
You know, and it sort of goes back to sort of what we talked about with supply chain and surcharges and all that kind of stuff. I can probably see, you know, the more options and the more things that supply chain delivery costs, everybody's working it in everywhere. And I don't know when that's going to go away. It'll hang with us for probably the next 7 or 8 years, and then it'll never come off. You'll never see a discount anywhere. So, I mean, that might be an opportunity to discuss a little bit more about, you know, those options and the absolute needs for those, because that just adds to everybody's cost. I can't get this. You know, I can't get that.
And I'll have Karen speak to that Monday evening too. Other
When we did
questions?
it ourselves, ran it ourselves, there was no guaranteed loss, there was just a loss, right?
Pardon, say that again?
When we ran it ourselves, all our employees,
I guess I don't know that because ever since I've been here, there's been a company.
okay. But I imagine, you know, we wouldn't tell ourselves, you know, it would just be a loss and a deficit. If,
Oh, sure. You're paying it all. Yeah. Other questions or things you want me to find out before Monday's meeting?
I do have a question, I'm just not sure, it seems more of a personnel type thing. Is it something we can talk of in executive session?
Sure. Yeah, because I have one item there anyway.
Okay, and then you could say, well, that wasn't, but I don't want to
Sure.
trip over.
Yep. Just making myself a note. Hold on. Okay. And 14G, approved security agreement with Giddings. You can take a look. Cost for next year would be $29.97 per hour, and unarmed. And you may be saying, well, when is that happening? So if we have some armed at events and they've had trouble getting folks, we have had said yes to unarmed. So those are the hourly rates. That is $1 an hour increase from the previous year. Questions, comments? So total spending usually is about $49.5 for the year.
Is the $29 an hour, is that during school
Yes.
and the unarmed?
And well, it's anytime you have armed. So if we have them here for an event and it's an armed person, that's the rate.
But so when we have 2 or 3 people at an event, football, does it have 2 or 3 people?
Oh, yes, we bring more than just one.
And not all of them would be the higher price?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've had to shift to that just simply because, again, just like anyone else, trying to get the people to cover, they have not been able to cover.
And we're still very comfortable having someone here every school day. Needed. Perfect.
You can ask administration how much he's called upon and used.
No, that's
quite
fine.
quite a bit.
I got
Quite a
the
bit.
answer.
Quite a bit.
It's a legitimate question, I
Yes.
just,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have a brief executive session for personnel reasons.
Yes. Yep.
Anything else? Okay. Quick meeting so far.
All right.